What's going on, everybody? KSA Kris here, Real Estate Blitz, and as you've noticed, it's been a little while since I've been on and doing the Blitz daily. And as you probably noticed behind me, I'm in a very different office. So, today I want to talk about why. It's in and probably with the why, I'm going to do a separate video on what to do when it happens. If it happens to you. So, long story short. As a lot of you know, if you've been watching the Blitz for a while, January I had two major missions that I actually went on. One of the major missions was to walk away from being a team lead and to build my own brokerage. And I accomplished it. I built my own brokerage, built an escrow company, built a lending business as well. We were up to 60, 70 agents, somewhere around there in less than a year. And we were doing it. So we accomplished a dream. The second one that I wanted to accomplish was to prove that you could start over with $500, which is what I did, and that you could become a six-figure agent. This year, to date, I think I've sold 17, close to $18 million worth of real estate. I started with 500 bucks. I did not use my previous business as far as in my database or anything like that, and it did very well. But unfortunately, certain things happen in my life that have really changed how I view everything. It seems like had a very very close friend of mine commit suicide in front of me a little over a month ago, and prior to that, I was starting to have some feelings of, man, is this really what I want? And I had talked to my wife a couple times, and I says, I'm not, I don't feel good about what's going on. I think I want to tear it down. And, at first I thought it was basically fear. And I'm a firm believer that the more you can control your fear, we are risk takers. That's really what we are. Starting your own business, it's not just real estate, but anything along these lines, especially if you're trying to do it at a high performing level, you have to have a lot of risk tolerance because you're basically throwing it out into the universe and really running and grinding and working and trying to build this thing that the average person refuses to take the time to do or even try. So I, you know, did all these things and I just didn't feel good. I didn't like what was going on. I didn't like how it was happening. And I think there's a lot of, I mean, long story short, I learned a lot from it. But after my friend took his life, and shortly thereafter, I flew out to Texas to go to the funeral. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at all these other people that are there, and it was a mix of anger and frustration and sadness, and all these other emotions that were going on. And I just started looking at my priorities. He had a wife, children, same ages as my children. He had two girls. I have two boys. And I'm just like, where are my priorities? So here's what was happening in order to create what we created in such a short amount of time. I wasn't seeing my wife. She wasn't coming home because she was at work. She was basically still pushing paperwork and helping agents. And, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. The kids at first were like, hey, is mommy coming home? Eventually, it was just like, mommy just doesn't come home. I didn't like that. I didn't like how we were drifting apart because we weren't spending time together. I didn't like when I was there, I was being taken away from the things that brought me joy, the things that I enjoyed doing, the things that I viewed as, uh, I don't know, I guess, high dollar, high return type actions. I was more moving into like really weird freaking management. I didn't have a lot of systems in place, so I was kind of playing catch up to I was trying to catch up to the growth, the massive growth that we were having. And in the process, I think a lot of agents were disappointed because they weren't getting the stuff that we wanted to give them or that they wanted because we were literally trying to always catch up with our growth. Now, all these things aren't horrible. It's just for me personally, I didn't feel good about what was going on and I wasn't happy. And that's why I did the interview recently on the Real Estate Blitz with Dr. Hank. And, as far as mindset and joy, and I started to question, for one, is does this fit within my priorities? And for two, uh, at the end of the day, we're not making it out alive, right? We're all going to pass away eventually, whether it's at a young age or an old age, God willing. Um, but it's going to happen. And to me, I had to start questioning, why did I get into real estate? Why did I want to be an entrepreneur? Why did I start a business? And I started realizing um, it wasn't so I could not go home. It wasn't so I could be miserable. It wasn't, yeah, money's great, and it was for the money, and we did very well, but it just sucked. It just sucked and I didn't like it. And I think the reason why it sucked so much and I didn't like it is because there's a lot of things I did wrong while we are building it. Now, here's what's cool. It was a hell of a freaking lesson. So, long story short, I ended up burning down all of it. I came back from the funeral and I looked around and I told my wife, I said, "Hey, I'm burning it all down." And she's like, "No, you're not." I was like, "Well, you can stay. I'm leaving. I'm rebuilding, and I'm going to do it very differently based off of what we've learned." And I did. I burned it all down, and I started over with a small team recently, and it's awesome. I'm happy. I look forward to coming to work. I know what stuff I need to create prior to regrowing to blowing back out. Like I'm sitting down and I'm cranking out the documentation. I'm implementing the systems. Implementing the processes, and I'm not doing it at a breakneck pace that makes me hate what I'm doing. So long story short, the reason why, and I've told a lot of those that watch this religiously, watch Real Estate Blitz religiously, this is something that I do for fun. It's been a part-time gig that I've done for fun, and I enjoy it, and I find that it's helped a lot of people. Um, and I had to look at, well, for me to do this, what stuff is going to go to the wayside? What stuff am I going to have to hold off on for a little while so I can rebuild? And the Blitz was one of them. Well, here it is. We're cooking now, and I'm going to be back on the Real Estate Blitz very consistently. Now, what you've probably also seen is that I started interviewing some really cool people. I have interviews almost every freaking week for the next 4 or 5 months with amazing top producing agents, mindset specialists, doctors, all sorts of cool stuff. And this is something else. During this whole time, I started looking at what was the intent of the Blitz, what is it becoming, what would bring me joy. And I started looking at, I think me running my mouth, and this is going to be a long one, me running my mouth, I think people enjoy to a point, but I really want to, if I really enjoy doing this and it's something I do for fun, this is like my hobby, why not like really go after it and really have a good time doing it? So I decided I'm going to start interviewing people. I'm going to be standing at the podcast. I've talked about it now for a year, and I haven't done it because it was like, I just keep doing some videos and we'll call it good. But I am going to really just start really going after the Blitz, and it's just because I found that through everything, the Blitz was giving me a lot of joy, and a lot of it's like a stress reliever in some ways for me to sit here and just sort of run my mouth and pass along videos that people enjoy, and I'm finding that it's helping people, and it was helping me. It's like my own little therapy in a lot of ways, and not only that, but I think also being able to show my failures and my successes. And I think for me, coming from a place of not being a guru, I'm not a guru. I'm just a guy that's trying to sell some real estate and build a business. But I'm finding that so many people want me to interview them, and these are people that are really freaking successful. So I view it as an opportunity. Here it is. I just had this major failure. I haven't failed, but I had a major failure in my business. And wouldn't it be cool if I could start like interviewing people and bouncing these truths, these real deep questions that you don't hear on a podcast or you don't see anywhere else, that nobody ever asks because it's not what you're supposed to ask, but actually dig deeper into a business and say, yeah, okay, let's not talk about stuff everybody knows. Let's talk about stuff that like we all really honestly deal with as real estate agents. So that's kind of the direction that Blitz I think is going to go, because I love the fact that it's still really raw. I love the fact that it's not stuff that you're going to hear on a typical podcast. And I want to step outside of myself and start becoming more of a student with the Blitz, as opposed to some guy that's running his mouth and telling you what maybe you should look at or explore or do. I'll still post up stuff from my successes, the things that have worked for me, my opinions, but I want to start interviewing people that are already successful and ask them. And in the process, while I'm trying to take what they're saying and building a business, you can do the same thing with me. I think it'll be a lot of fun. The podcast platform, I don't know how that's going to look yet. I'm going to be working on that over the next month. But the video side of the house, I like the idea that it started on video. It's going to keep going on video. And then I'm going to start creating, I'm going to start actually curating the Facebook page a lot more, because I know there's a lot of people on there. On top of that, I think I'm going to start a Real Estate Blitz kind of group page, and I bounced this off my wife, and she thought it was great. So she's part of Real Estate Happy Hour, and also there's some other real estate agent ones. So one of them is like they got a huge stick up their butt, and you can't have any fun. And then the other one is like a hard, like all fun, over the top ridiculous. I want something that's sort of in the middle where we can get on there, communicate, talk, ask honest questions without getting beat up too much, but we could still have a good time. So I'll probably start implementing that soon. But anyways, I just wanted to let you all know what's up. Hit you up. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And you can expect that I will be doing the Blitz a lot more often and doing interviews a minimum of once per week. The interviews are pretty freaking awesome, to be honest with you. And then those interviews, because they're so long, I'm going to be putting them into a podcast or putting them somewhere where you can actually just listen to the audio while you're driving around in your car. So that's all I got today. Appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later. Have a good one. Bye.